All right, looks like I am live. So I'm just gonna welcome to the Brandon Bonanza live show. I was doing a voice earlier for some friends. It's just gonna be me tonight, solo episode. It's been a while since I've done a solo episode, and I don't know. Wow, maybe a year, 2 years. What year is it again? Yeah, it's been a while since I've done solo audio ones, I think more recent actually, maybe. It's quite possible, but I'm just going to drop the link in a couple places while I'm waiting for some people to join. Why not, right? You got to share it, get some people in the chat, make it interesting. But tonight I'm going to be talking about my life story. So I'm going to talk about what brought me here, basically, where I am today. And I figured some people might be interested in this. There's some very interesting things that have happened to me, and also you can get a look at my perspective. Hey, what's up, Sharon? Sharon's in the chat. You can get a look at my perspective on why I think, the things that I think, and how I arrived at my belief system. So I think it's going to be very interesting, especially if you are a fan of the Oversharon Show. And if you're not a fan of the best darn show on the internet, you better get over there. We do it every Thursday night right here on this channel. We premiere it. We're in the live chat. We have a Telegram group. We're big time. Let's see, where was I going to share this? Yeah, so check out the Oversharon Show every Thursday night at 8:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We don't do them live, although we are going to be doing a live show. I guess I can do a commercial for that. You heard it here first, folks. On Sunday, which happens to be 9/11. All right, YouTube, I'm just saying the date of the week, 9/11/22. We're doing a live stream, Sharon and and I believe we have a guest. I just don't want to, when you're trying to line time zones and people with families and stuff, it could be hard, so we don't always try to guarantee our guests, but Sharon and I are going to be there for sure. So, oh, what's up, Io Walks and Andrew Bamaj? Hey, Andrew, what's going on? So what else was I going to say? Yeah, so on 9/11, it's funny because on 9/11, every time it comes by, I always feel like I want to do something for it, record something or write something, just because of all the stuff that's happened since then, the impact it's had on my own life, and then finding out the truth about it, finding out that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't assassinate John Kennedy. It looks like, at least it wasn't by himself, finding all that out. I'm going to personally invite right now Joe P, because he was mad I didn't invite him. He's probably sleeping right now though, but last night he was up, so who knows. He's gonna wake up and see this. Shout out to Joe P, everybody. He's a big fan of the Oversharon Show, and you can see our episode with him. I'll have to look up the episode number. Sharon, what episode number was it? Put it in the chat. See, it's great because I still have Sharon in the chat here to help me, at least for the beginning of this. So then once I get rolling, I'll be good. I'm still sharing the fact that I'm live. We got 7 in here watching now. All right, thank you guys so much. Make sure you subscribe. If you're already subscribed, hit that bell, because you never know when we might go live now that we know how to do this and we're confident with it, especially me. And I plan on having guests, and I know a lot of very interesting people. Do you guys know who Rodney Norman is? Rodney Norman is the guy, he's the comedian. He's got the long hair and the bushy beard, and he looks like Santa Claus. And he's like, ever wonder what the meaning? Like he always says, have a nice day. He's that guy. Well, I used to do stand-up comedy with him. I know him very well, and I've had him on my show before, and he said anytime I want to have him on, even though he's internet famous now and blew up, he's still like, sure, dude, I love talking to you. So yeah, might have him sometime soon. Look out for that. I know he's been busy lately touring and stuff, which is awesome, but these comedians go on the road and they're sitting in a hotel room. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll do a podcast. So anyway, that's what I think happened last time, or maybe he was in Utah because he has a house. He lives half in Utah and half in Connecticut. I don't want to give too much of his personal life away. All right, I think I shared this enough with enough people. Let's see. Episode 28. So episode 28 was with Joe P. Go check that one out, the Oversharon Show. It's right here at this channel. And it was a really good one. What's up, Sammy? Big shout out to Sammy. I just gave him a reading the other day. It was so crazily spot on, and I'm not like bragging or whatever. Just talking about the synchronicities, how I'm sure you guys understand what I'm talking about. The synchronicities lately have been insane. So I gave a reading to Sammy, and it was like so crazy, the synchronicities in it, right, Sammy? He'll tell you, he's right in the chat. And yeah, dude, he knows all about it. So I'm gonna tell again. So the people that just got here, I'm gonna tell about my life story. So I'm doing a nice solo Brandon Bonanza like we haven't done in a while. We just wanted to share that link out and get it out to some people and let them know. I'm gonna send it to another friend because why not? People need to know about this stuff. I'm somebody. Ooh, my nose keeps itching. Anyway, I'm doing laundry, so this is a perfect excuse because right now I live in the basement of my parents' house for being on my own for over 20 years. I got out when I was in the Marines when I was 18, so technically, but then I when I got out of the Marines when I was 22, this is like a little spoiler alert to some of the story. So I got out of the Marines when I was 22, and I lived back home for maybe about a year, if that. And then I just found my own place and started working and saving money and stuff. And so I've been back here since August of 2020. So it's been a little bit of a challenge since I'm used to living on my own. But the reason I brought that up was because why did I bring that up again? There was a reason. Oh yeah, because I'm in my parents' basement. So that's the whole story to that. And I'm down here doing laundry, so it's perfect because this is where I have my computer. It's my old room. We moved here when I was like 17, and I had a nice portion of the basement. It's a pretty big room, but most of it is used for storage right now. So anyway, it's pretty cool. But I'm not sleeping down here. I'm sleeping up in my two brothers' old room, kind of. It's like one big room, but there's like a divider. It's like a big attic that's finished. It's hard to explain. But anyway, I get the whole upstairs. It's pretty cool. So it's not terrible, and I should be very thankful, which I am. But like I said, it's just challenging at times. But anyway, so I was down here doing my laundry anyway. So I'm like, you know what? Why not do a live stream? And then Sharon was like, do it. She sent me a cool meme. But anyway, so I guess we have everyone in here that's going to get in here so far tonight. So I guess I can begin. Let's see. I grew up going to a Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade. I was at the same small Catholic school. There was probably like earlier on, like when we were younger, the classes were bigger. But as I got to 8th grade, there's probably like 20, 18 or 20 kids in the class. It was so, and it was, like I said, a smaller Catholic school. And we used to walk down to the beach. It was probably about 4 blocks. And there was the church right there on the beach. It was really crazy here on Long Island Sound. And it wasn't terrible. We got to walk down there a lot, but I was always really bored in church. Like that's what I remember, like falling asleep. Although I was really interested in all of the stories though, but they didn't really talk about the stories all the time. It was more about like singing and like hymns in the Catholic church, and then like sitting, standing, kneeling. You guys get it. You've seen all the terrible comedians. So I was doing that. Excuse me a minute. And then I became an altar boy, and my uncle would take me to church. My uncle was just a really good friend of the family, actually. He wasn't technically my uncle, but you know how that goes. And he was really into going to Catholic church, so he would take me down there on Sundays because I obviously wasn't on school on Sunday. So I would go down, and I was an altar boy. So I've always been on stage. And that was really interesting, but it just always felt like something I should do. And it didn't feel like, I don't know, plus I was younger, I guess. And then when I got to about 4th grade, my mom's friend came and converted her into Pentecostal born again Christianity, where they like speak in tongues. And so that was pretty hardcore. We were doing that like least 2 or 3 times a week, because there was Sunday, which was like an all-day event. And then there was either like a outing or some kind of like Bible study on one night or whatever, and then like coffee after, and people just talking. So that was pretty intense, and I got involved in the Boy Scouts through that too. But I was super into it because of what I saw and what I felt. Like when they would talk about the Holy Spirit, I actually felt a feeling coming through me. Like it was amazing. So I was really into that. And I've seen people healed right in front of me. And it was like crazy stuff. Like somebody had a tumor and it was somebody we knew. So it's like firsthand information, and they got shrunk. So that was really when I was like, wow. And then you see, like, you go to some of these and some people stand up and get out of wheelchairs. But now that I know what that is, it's like, I'm not so impressed. Not so impressed with the wheelchair. Come on, Paraplegic, where are you at? Somebody text Paraplegic and tell them I'm live. We can make fun of them. But come on, get out of that fucking wheelchair. You could do it. But no, I had seen some stuff that was pretty amazing. And there was this other guy that I knew. I was friends with him because he was only a couple years older than me. And he had this like crazy condition, and it was hard to explain, but he was like, maybe it was like a mental thing, I don't know, but he was kind of like Parkinson's-y. I know that's kind of insensitive, but you guys get what I'm saying. But when he was living with Jesus, he was like normal. It was crazy. But he would even like, it would be harder for him to talk and stuff. He would like, his saliva, he said, would get like thicker, and like, yeah, it was crazy. So who knows? I mean, it could have been experimental medical serum damage, but back then, it wasn't as common. Anywho, let's change the subject. I was trying to share this with Paraplegic Bear. So yeah, so I was going to this church, and I was, like I said, I was really into it. I would even go to Bible study with the adults, even though I was like in 4th and 5th grade, and I would talk to them. And I had so my mother's friend that converted her husband, her new husband, was into this stuff. But he was like, he's probably one of the purest Christians, if you want to think of him in a churchian way, whatever that is, right? Like a born again, like he believed it, but he was walking the walk. Like out of anybody I've ever met, he really put his money where his mouth was. So I like really respected him, and he read the Bible so much. So I would talk to him about these ideas, and I'm just this little kid. And it was just really fascinating to me all the time, all the stories and stuff in the Bible. I started reading the Bible a lot, and paraplegic. And it was really powerful to me. And then we got out of that, and then we all know what happens. Puberty comes. And so I was more interested in like women and stuff, I guess. And stuff like that. And, I played basketball, and I had my friends. So I was more worried about that kind of stuff, I guess. And, hanging out, going fishing, all the fun stuff in nature. So that's where I kind of was at for a while. And then high school came, same kind of thing. But I always had this idea in the back of my mind, because I believed it was real. I always had this idea in the back of my mind that I could go to hell. So there was some guilt there, but it wasn't that strong in those years. And then I joined the Marine Corps, everybody. And that was when right out of high school, basically the summer after I was in high school. I'm just texting him. I joined earlier, and the story was I wanted to join the Air Force or the Navy or something because I wanted to work on helicopters. But I always secretly wanted to be a Marine. I watched all the movies, and my uncle, the one that brought me to church, he was a Marine. And, I was like really into history, and I was very patriotic, the Revolutionary War and all the, what we were told in the Civil War and what we were told. Oh man. But anyway, so I was super into that. And yeah, there goes Paraplegic. Freaking perfect. I'm telling my life story, dude. And then I was in Baltimore buying crack, and I got shot. No, I'm stealing your story. So I joined the Marine Corps, but I wanted to work on airplanes. That's Air Force, Navy. And then a Marine Corps recruiter called me, and I was talking to him, And he was like, Marines. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, honestly, I'd love to join, but I want to work in aircraft. And he's like, oh, we got aircraft. We got all kinds of aircraft. He's like, what are you, crazy? And I was like, well, can you guarantee me a job on aircraft? He's like, yeah. So I was so excited about it. So like, and I knew, because I watched Full Metal Jacket, like I knew how insane and crazy it was. And it was funny because when I got there, not a lot of guys knew that. I mean, some did, but there was people that didn't know how insane it was, and they really freaked out. Like it was crazy. I saw this guy, and he was built like he was the biggest guy in our platoon. He was like he definitely worked out. And back then, there wasn't this whole workout culture. Like there wasn't so many, jack guys, so it was a little more rare. I mean, there were some, you get it, but and he couldn't make it. Like he just lost his mind. He saw these bikes and he had to steal them. I don't know what happened. I was just trying to throw a little reference in there, but yeah, he just lost it, man. But I had a pretty easy time in boot camp. The physical was hard, but the mental, it wasn't that bad. In the beginning, though, they got me because I had really high scores. And when I first got there, I was able to listen, take commands. And so I was starting to like move up. And so when we had our initial, like the first week we were there, we had our initial meeting, or maybe a couple weeks. Yeah, maybe a week, because I think it was 3 months. We had a meeting with the head drill instructor. Now, if you've seen Full Metal Jacket, when you're talking to a drill instructor as a recruit, you have to be like, sir, yes, sir. And you can't look at him. You have to look straight ahead. You're always at attention. And so I was sitting there at attention, and he's like talking to me. He's like, Smitty's like got some real damn fucking high scores. And he's like, you're doing really well. So he was giving me all these compliments. And so he was like gassing me up. And I realized it was like a psychological thing, because they only pick on the top 10% and the bottom, well, maybe top 20, 15%, and then the bottom. But if you stay in the middle, and there's 70 of us in a platoon, if you stay in the middle of that on their radar, they don't mess with you. And somebody told me that going in there. And then I started to advance toward the top, and I noticed it. They would like fuck with me more out in the field or whatever. They would single me out. So I just was like, I somehow just used my camouflage, even though I was like the tallest guy there. Actually, there's one guy taller, and he went crazy too. Speaking of the other guy, but this guy went nuts. That's a different story though, I'll tell after. So anyway, they gassed me up, and I realized it. So I just kind of skated in the middle, but the psychological thing wasn't really hard for me, because basically, like I was saying, Full Metal Jacket, every time you want to talk to them. So if you have to go to the bathroom, and it's not like, this is during the day, at a certain point at night, you could just kind of do what you need to do, but it's still pretty strict. But they just go in their little, like their little room and leave you alone. But during the day, if you're doing training or whatever, and you have to pee, there's a whole thing you have to go through, because every time you want to talk to them, you have to be like, sir, and you have to wait for them to be quiet. Like, sir, Recruit Smith, request permission to speak to drill instruction sergeant Hess, sir. So that's just requesting to speak, right? And then they're like, what do you want, Smith? And then you're like, sir, Recruit Smith, request permission to make a head call, sir. And if you fucked any of that up, they would just sit there and fuck with you about it. So sometimes they just, if we were in a brush, or like go, because they couldn't not let you go to the bathroom. There was like some law that everybody knew about, So I guess it used to be crazier back in the day in the Vietnam eras, but and they couldn't hit you anymore physically, but they still kind of got away with hitting people a little bit. Nothing crazy. I got like punched in the chest pretty hard by my drill instructor, because he was checking the ties, and I tied my tie, and he was just like, he's like, good job. And I was like, oh, it was crazy. Like, but other than that, there wasn't like the Full Metal Jacket stuff you see, but they will make you do push-ups and run in place. And it's not like they say, get down and give me 50. And the Marines are like, push, and then you push in place, and they're like, run. And then you like run in place. And then they're like, 60, 90, and you have to get down and do like the leg lifts. It's crazy. And they make you keep your feet at 6 inches. And anyway, so sometimes I'm like, would you just hit me? Like, I'd rather have them hit me. So, but in there though, they allow you to go to church on Sundays. And I was talking, I think, to Sharon about this. And I was saying how, all right, so the belief we have about religion on one level, like, I'm not trying to disparage anybody's beliefs here. Let me take a sip. I think if you're a Christian and you go to church, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm not saying you don't matter. What I'm saying is, in my mind, it doesn't matter what you believe. Like I was telling someone the other day, like you could worship a chicken as long as you're walking according to the golden rule, then I'm fine with you. You know, that's a great way to put it to a Christian. Or you're adhering to natural law, the true definition of it, not the law of the jungle one, but you know, that kind of God's law thing, right? As long as you're doing that, I don't care what you do. You know, I don't care who you praise, is what I mean. But what we've noticed is that there is an element of control, just like in any organized religion. And we traced it back to like, you know, you can even just trace it back to the founding of Christianity and the Council of Nicaea and Constantine and all the stuff that they did, because they took all these pagan elements, right? And they put them with these Christianized ideas over it. They just painted over it, basically, you know, what we found. Don't kill the messenger. This is just our point of view. So when I say it's like a system of control, just like a mind control system, kind of like, and again, if not all Christians are like this, I'm just saying a lot of what I see in the mainstream and all this stuff, right? And all these ideas. So anyway, we realized how they used it in the military on your day off, because the way that they use these services, like you're there and you're singing all these songs and these Christian songs and stuff, and you're like, you're getting that like McDonald's version of spirituality, right? You know, like if you want to go eat McDonald's food, you can go eat McDonald's food. If you want to eat the McDonald's spirituality, you go to one of these like mega churches, right? And that's what it was set up like. So we were singing all these songs. And funny story, because I was telling Sharon, because there's one song, it was always, they would always sing in church when I was at born again Christian church and all that stuff. They would sing I'm in the army of God, you know, I'm in God's army now, but we never sang that in the Marines. And I was like, yeah, because they already got us. They don't need that one anymore. Like, we're already there, man. And they don't want to make it too real, you know. That could be it too. But anyway, so I was onto that. And let's see, I stayed even after boot camp. I stayed in that. I was going to church and stuff. And I was in school in Memphis, Tennessee, in Millington, Tennessee, outside of Memphis, to work on aircraft. So you go to 3 months about of boot camp, a little short of 3 months. I got out right before Thanksgiving. You get a month off. So I had the whole month off. And then after Christmas, before New Year's, I had to, oh no, I'm sorry, you don't get a month off. What am I thinking? What am I, crazy? A month. That would have been great. So you get 10 days off. And then I went to a month of combat training in December in North Carolina. And it was crazy because when I started boot camp, it was like 98 in South Carolina at Paris Island and like 100% humidity. And then by the time I left, it was like freezing. Well, probably not freezing, but we were so used to being hot, but it was like 40s and windy. It was crazy. So we got to experience both ends of that. And then in combat training, we were in North Carolina at Camp Geiger, which is right next to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And you're treated a little bit better in combat training. You're not treated like a total piece of crap. There's sergeants there. They're not drill instructors. They're just regular platoon sergeants. And so they don't wear like the smoky cap and they don't make you stand at attention all the time, but there's still a high level of respect. It's set up the same way. There's like platoons. You're allowed to go out on the weekends though. And it's just a total different vibe because they just leave you alone at night, and just during the day, we're out doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And so after that, and that was crazy, actually. So this is like 1994. So I have vague memories of this, right? It's almost 30 years ago. Yikes. So I do remember though, when we went out, everybody wanted to go to the strip club or get a tattoo or just get hammered. And I think we ended up going to, I wasn't really about strip clubs. That wasn't ever really my thing. So I don't even remember what the hell did we do. I can't remember. It's been so long. I do remember other cool stories about being in Malta. and being in Italy. Like Italy, I remember really well. I think that's why I don't remember that part well, because Italy was insanely awesome. I highly recommend to go if you ever get a chance. Go to Italy. The food there is amazing. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So I think the first after that, then I went home for New Year. No, I didn't go home for New Year's. I went right from North Carolina to Memphis. That's right. And I got there on New Year's Eve. Like, how synchronistic is my life? It's crazy. It was like it was a story that was written. So I get to my first school. So they're even more lax on you there on New Year's Eve, but I can't go out because I got duty. And New Year's Eve is always my like favorite holiday. I always love New Year's for some reason. And I was like, man, I want to go out. So I paid this guy. I don't remember if I even paid him or what happened, but he took my duty and he ended up becoming one of my really good friends. And we ended up going to Washington State together after that for like a couple months to Whidbey Island. And then we went to North Carolina and he got put into a different squadron because we were working on airplanes, but we shared the same hangar. So I'd be gone for 6 months, come back, hang out with him for a while. Then he would have to rotate out and then he'd come back and we got to hang out. So it was really cool. But anyway, he took this is how our friendship started, because we were in that combat training together, but we didn't really know each other. So we had a lot in common. He was from near Poughkeepsie, New York, and he was Ecuadorian. So his name was Enrique Fernando Ceballos. I always used to say it like that to him. Dude, that was a fucking trip. I'm not like trying to brag or nothing, but I was just always like Enrique Fernando Ceballos. Like I would always just go into characters much easier, especially back then. And he would die laughing, and all the Spanish guys would love it. Like there was this Mexican guy that was in Memphis with us, and he was one of my roommates, and he was like a nerdy cholo. He was so funny though. Like he was hilarious. He was like Steve Urkel almost energy plus like a cholo. It was so funny. Carlos was his name. No, yeah, Carlos was his last name. We always knew each other's last names. But anyway, so this guy takes my duty. I go out in Memphis and I go to a place that Nigel will know. Yeah, dude, Beale Street. But I went to Mongo's and we weren't supposed to go. It was my first day there. There's a list of bars and clubs we weren't supposed to go to. And Mongo's was top of the list. I think it was Mongo's. And that's the first, we ended up there, dude. It was crazy. And I ended up dancing with this girl and it was just such a fun time. But the next day, there was like a club, we were all dancing and stuff. It was so much fun. I was hammered. So the next day though, I woke up and my stomach hurt. And I was like, oh, it must have been because I was drinking. And I think we had a few days till we had to report in. So it was kind of like we just had the day off unless we had duty. So when you first get there, they don't really have anything for you. So I think every 4 days you have duty, but other than that, you can just kind of come and go as you please. So I was just laid up in bed. And then finally, before we had to go to the orientation, I was like, my stomach's been bothering me for a couple of days. They're like, all right, go to sick hall. And I got there and they're like, dude, your appendix is about to explode. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because I have a really high tolerance for pain. And, I was just in the Marines. I don't want to be seen as it's like, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm 19. What am I going to do? No, I was 18. So they rushed me to the hospital. I go into like an emergency surgery, but it was fine. They took my appendix out, but I didn't know anybody there. It was crazy. It was at a Navy base and a Navy hospital. So it was just a weird, like not a weird vibe, but just different. And it snowed in Memphis. How crazy is that? Yep. It doesn't really snow there. I don't think that much, but there was snow coming down when I got my surgery. And it was a few days after New Year's. It was nuts. So because of that, this is where the 30 days comes in. I get 30 days of leave. They call it convalescence leave. So I got to go home for 30 days, which is cool. So then I went back. And the thing is, the class didn't pick up, so I didn't miss anything. That's why they sent me, because they just had stupid duties for you to do, and you had to like muster every morning and like just stand there at attention for no reason. Because there were some guys that were going to school, but they had already been in the fleet, so they were like grunts for 4 years, and then they wanted to go work on airplanes after in their new reenlistment. So they would be corporals and stuff. So they'd come and they would have us, and they'd kind of be like senior to us, but because they've been like in the fleet or whatever, and there were grunts and shit. They didn't care. They were just like, dude, whatever. So it was cool. Then I went to classes and stuff, and then I ended up going to uh I guess this is a funny part of the story I should tell. There was a staff sergeant there. So it was mostly Navy guys, but we had one Marine Corps staff sergeant that worked on airplanes too. And he happened to work on the same one that I was going to go work on in the same squadron. And he was there teaching for 6 months because he didn't, or a year or whatever, because he didn't want to go on the deployment on the aircraft carrier. So I got sent to the squadron. But before then, we get sent to Whidbey Island, Washington. And this was 1995, Washington State, to go work on the specific plane we're going to be assigned to, because at that school in Memphis, it's just like all planes, whatever. So I went there for maybe 2 months, 3 months, and that was pretty cool. But I had another hospital interaction there, and mind you, I'd never broken a bone. The only time I went to the hospital was one time my brother got a fish hook stuck in my arm, and it wasn't even that bad, but we just couldn't get it out. So they just like popped it out in a second. But I'd never been like, I never got hurt. So this was like my second ambulance ride. This was a very interesting one. So and it's crazy. It's the same dude. So the synchronicities, I never thought about this. It's the same guy that took my duty New Year's Eve on 94 to 95. Like I said, he went to this place with me. So we ended up becoming friends and roommates. It was really cool. And it was mostly Navy guys there. So we would always give them such a hard time. Like, it was so much fun, but it was just different because, the Marines, they just make you think you're invincible and like you're a badass, all this shit. So, I mean, I didn't get too much into it, but it was just funny because I don't know, they were just so laid back. It was different anyway. So I was headed to, I made some good Navy friends. One guy there, a Navy guy, was in my class. I made really good friends with him, and he was a pilot, not in the Navy, but he just learned to fly. Like, he had his pilot's license because growing up, his parents had planes. So we rented a 2-seater prop plane in Washington State and flew over Mount Rainier and the whole mountain range. It was intense, dude. The takeoff and landing on that was probably one of the scariest takeoff and landings I've had. I mean, I had some scary ones on aircraft carrier too. Not that I was flying. I'm just saying in a craft. I was just a mechanic. So anyway, where was I? I'm getting lost here. Whidbey Island. I was there for a couple months. I was with my friend. Hospital story. That's right. So I was wrestling with my friend because, we're like 18 and we just wrestle, guys. And I had him pinned down. And he was like shorter and stockier than me, but I'm just so big that I just got him and pinned him down. So I was like, all right, I'm getting up. So I got up and he kind of charged at me because I think he was still mad. And I ended up stepping back on the bed and then falling right through the window. I put my arm through the window, and I got this nice scar. I don't know if you could see it because it's a tattoo, but there's right here, and then it comes down here. It was like all open. And I was the calmest one in the room when it happened. I took the bedspread, put it over immediately, leaned on it, and I was like, call 911. And then one of our friends was in the courtyard, so he yelled out the window and he ran up. And then I was like, when he gets in, I'm like, you get a towel. And I made him start a tourniquet on my arm. Like, I'm telling you, I'm a fucking badass, dude. Everyone's freaking out. This is a true story though. So I have it covered. And then SPs, they call them, the Shore Patrol, which are the MP equivalent in the Navy, they show up. So the cops get there basically. And he's like, let me see it. And I was like, I'm leaning on it and I could feel just like someone's pouring warm water down my arm. So I know I'm bleeding pretty bad. And I know it's a bad idea to let go. So I was like, and I'm supposed to obey, like, whatever, because he's like a sergeant or whatever. And I was like, no, man, I can't let go because I have to keep pressure on it. And he was like, give me a hard time. But then the paramedic guys showed up, whatever, the EMTs. And so the cop backs up and the guy's talking to me and he has this big pile of gauze. And he's like, all right, in the count of 3, you let go and I'll take over. And I started to look and he's like, you can't look. I'm like, come on, I want to see it. Right. I'm crazy. He's like, no, you got to look away. So I looked at the cop that wanted to see it. And they did it 1, 2, 3, and he looked at his face like turned green. I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, get out of here. Like, come on, you can't even handle it. Anyway, so that's a fun story. And then they took me out in a stretcher it was like a movie because we were in the barracks. It was like a hotel basically, but the rooms were closer kind of. So everyone's like opening their door and looking out. So I'm just laying on the stretcher, seeing all these faces look down at me. It was so funny. I get to the hospital and there's this old Navy doctor there and he has to do surgery. And he told me that if it went like even an eighth of an inch deeper, the nerve was right there and it didn't cut it, but it would have severed the nerve and I probably would have lost use of my arm. Craziness. And he also told me it's the gnarliest thing he's seen since Vietnam because he was in Vietnam. He's this old Navy doctor, short guy. He was so funny. So he stitched me up and then they gave me an opportunity to go home again on the convalescence leave. But if that happened, then I couldn't graduate with my class. I'd have to come back. So I was like, I'll just go. It's fine. Like, I think I was in the hospital for a few days and then I was all right. I mean, I was fucking 18, I was just like, whatever, he'll just grow back, So I ended up going to North Carolina after that. Trying to think if I went home in between. Yeah, I think I went home for a little while. And then I went to North Carolina. And I went to Havelock, North Carolina, to Cherry Point, and that's when I was assigned to VMAQ 3. My friend went there and he was assigned to VMAQ 1, so he was in a different. We had the same job, but just different squadrons or whatever. So it was pretty cool because I can go hide out in his shop and he can come hide out in my shop. It was fun, dude. I was such like that movie Slackers. It was kind of like that. Me and the Marines. It was great. But the secret was, and I always try to figure out how they do this, or I always try to figure out how this was happened because everybody in my shop, I worked on ejection seats. So there's different shops for like the engines and the airframes and the parachutes and the electronics and the avionics and the all these different shops, right? I worked in the seat shop. So we worked on ejection seats and we fixed the canopies. We also serviced the liquid oxygen, but everybody in my shop, they were all slackers. It was so fucking crazy, but we were also hard workers. So if something needed to get done, we can get it done quick, but we had a lot of downtime and we were able to always look busy, but always have such a good time. It was so funny. So we hustled when we had to, but then we had a lot of downtime. And the thing is in the Marine Corps, if you have downtime, they always want to give you busy work. So we would always kind of constantly have to look busy. So I would just walk around the hangar and I had friends in all the different other shops and they were more consistently busy, most of the shops. So they were always kind of doing something. So I'd always walk around with a clipboard and just pretend to be, just look at the plane. And I realized that if I just had a clipboard and was looking at the plane, if an officer or somebody walked by, I could just start doing this and they would just leave me alone. So I would just sit there and talk to my friends. And then if someone came by, it was like a fucking sitcom, dude. It was hilarious. And one other funny story. So I went on that cruise 6 months. I went to Italy. I went to the island of Crete for a night. So I was on an aircraft carrier. And every time the carrier pulled into port, half of our squadron, we had 6 planes. Half of them would take 3 planes and they would go to Aviano Air Force Base in Italy and keep the planes flying, because when a aircraft carrier goes into port, the planes obviously can't take off from it. And our planes were involved in all that stuff that was going on in Bosnia and stuff. So our planes also jammed electronic radar. And so even though the aircraft carrier didn't have missions going on, the Air Force Base there did. And they had already lost a plane in like 91. So they wanted our planes because they were, even though they're very old, which is another hilarious story, these planes, some of them for like Vietnam, they just had this new software that could jam things really well, and it worked out well. They're just like an A6, if you're familiar with that is, from that movie Flight of the Intruder, but they had 2 extra back seats with another cockpit in the back, and they were called the EA6B Prowler, and they just jammed everything. From what I was told, they could take out all the electronics of like Seattle, one of them. It's nuts, the shit that they have. So anyway, they also could steer missiles. So when I was on the carrier, I had duty. So once a month, I think, depending on your rank, you had to do this. You had to go into another crazy synchronicity. You had to be in the briefing room. So that's where all the officers and the pilots would go. The mechanics would never go in there. But once a month, we got to go in there because we'd have to answer the phone. and we would have to be like the secretary kind of, especially at night if something happens or whatever. So I was in there when all the air crew got back from their first combat mission, and they were saying shit they shouldn't have been saying in front of me, like, because everything's like secret and top secret. I wasn't supposed to know about anything. Like, I had no idea we were dropping bombs until every day the planes, our planes didn't carry bombs, but the other planes, I'd be on the top of the deck and our planes would be taken off the same time as the bombers and stuff. So I think we had F-18 bombers, which are terrible bombers. They're better than F-14s, I guess. But anyway, so we would see them take off with bombs, and then we'd see them land with bombs. And then one day they just came back without bombs, and we're like, oh shit, I guess we're bombing somebody. Like, that's the level of what I knew. Right. And I had a general idea. I knew we were in the Adriatic Sea, allegedly. So I was in there though, and they're just freaking out, like, because a lot of them had never seen combat before, because some of them were in Desert Storm, like the colonels, but by this time, or maybe a major or so, but by this time, all the captains and lieutenants hadn't seen any combat. So they were just like wide-eyed and just going crazy. And they're like, yeah, you could see the SAMs, which is surface air missiles. He's like, you could look down and you see like a big flash on the ground, like really glow. And then it comes up, and he's like, then we catch it on our radar, and they get into like the head. Cause I would also talk to the avionics guys who fix this equipment. And they would say they could program the missiles so they would go a different way and miss their target. And it's like glorified Nintendo. That's what we used to say. Like, there's one pilot, because there's 4 air crew and the 2 guys in front, 2 in the back. There's like 1 pilot that flies and like 3 glorified Nintendo players. So yeah, you could have went to college and became a Nintendo player in the 90s. But they were kind of doing a defensive thing. So, I mean, of course, I'm very anti-war. Not that I don't believe in going to war, but it's more about a defensive thing, right? Anyway, that's not what this is about. So that was an amazing experience, because I got to hear all their stories about all this crazy stuff and like explosions and stuff around them. So after that, I went to Aviano. Oh, so I guess on the carrier. So I went to Italy, because we would go back and forth to this Air Force base in Aviano. Then I went to Naples with the ship one time. So we were there for about a week. Then I went to Trieste, which is near Venice, kind of. And that's just like a regular city, but that was really interesting. It's up north, and they have a lot of just ruins and stuff everywhere, just crazy stuff everywhere up in northern Italy. It's crazy. Anywho, I went to Malta, which was amazing. It was probably my favorite place that I've ever been, because I actually learned Italian while I was there, so that was really cool. I loved it. But in Malta, they speak English because they were an English colony. And they also have Maltese, which is like a mixture of English, Italian, and like some kind of African language. It's really, really interesting. And the people there are so awesome. Like, when I was there, one night, we just decided to go to the liquor store, and I met some friends that were in the Navy. And so we had some Navy guys and Marines with us. We're like, we're just going to go to the liquor store. We're going to get gin and juice. We were like fucking 19. We didn't know. We knew about Snoop Dogg and gin and juice. So we were just like, we'll just drink. We don't have like glasses or any of that. Like, we'll just take a sip of gin and a sip of juice. And one of my friends got super hammered. So we got kicked off the bus, basically. And they're so nice there. Like, they put up with so much. But finally, I think he even threw up. And then they're like, you got to get off. So we're just walking through this neighborhood, basically. And we go to this market, and the people there are really cool. And they're just talking to us, asking us about America, because, you got to remember, this is before the internet. This is like when people would actually talk to you. And, it was totally flat, Lucas, allegedly. Oh, that's another thing. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean at night, you can't have any lights on the top of a carrier, because they're always at war or whatever. You got to practice all that stuff anyway. So you could go up and just lay and see all the stars. It was amazing. I would do it all the time. I would just go up there, and you'd lay under some of the planes, and you just look up at the stars, and it's just like, whoa. So yeah, that was a really amazing part of the carrier. Malta, though, I was in that neighborhood market talking to the guy who owned it. And after a while, he's like giving us stuff to eat and all this stuff, not even like asking us for money, just, dude, like. And then he was like, if you guys want, he's like, you guys are really cool. He's like, you could stay here. He's like, I'll give you a job. He's like, you could just stay here, live here. Like, and it's not totally like these horror movie vibes or whatever. Like this dude was like seriously honest. He's like, yeah, man, you guys are awesome. He's like, you could just stay here and live here. And I was so tempted. I was like, obviously I would get in all kinds of trouble and whatever, but I was like, dude, but I didn't do that, obviously. And one night we went out in a club and that was really cool. Everyone's just so friendly. I went to go see Ace Ventura there, the second one at a movie theater. It was nuts. Anyway, really great experience. And then we were in Italy. So what happened, what would happen though, was we would, from the carrier, while it's still at sea, these helicopters would come and pick us up, or sometimes these smaller prop jets. Well, not small. They were like it was a cargo jet, but it was smaller because it had to fit on an aircraft carrier, and it had seats in it just like an airliner would, and then half of it was cargo. So I took that a couple of times, which is nuts because you have to catch the wire. So you're going and you're facing backwards and you can't see. And the guy's like, I'll just lower my hand 1 minute before we're going to hit the thing. That was like the longest minute of my life. I'm like, are we going to hit it? Because if you miss it, the plane flips over. We'd have ejection seats or whatever. So anyway, it was just crazy. I did that a couple times. And then taking off from those are nuts too, because you got the catapult that pushes you and you have to have it at like full power because it's like, I think I can. It's amazing. And then taking helicopters off was fun. They had these CH-53 Sea Stallions, which were pretty decent size, one prop and like the tail like you'd see in a regular helicopter, not the double prop one, but it was like really wide and really long for that size. So it fit a lot of people in it. And when we're up there, they're leaking. It's like leaking hydraulic fluid out of this thing. And one of the guys was like, the thing's leaking. He's like, yeah, that's how we know it's full. We're like, all right, great. So that's the military, everybody. So we would fly off to this airport in Bari, Italy, and we would just sit in the airfield in the flight line all day, or basically in the grass, waiting for other jets that were more like passenger jets that were still Air Force jets or whatever that would come pick us up and fly us up to the Air Force base. So one time on the way back, we get back to Bari, we get in helicopters and we take off, and the helicopters, oh no, I'm sorry, we get in Bari and they're like, we're going to fly you down to Egypt, and then you're going to get on helicopters in Egypt and then fly to the carrier, because the carrier was like farther south. So they fly us to Egypt. And I flew over some pyramids. It was pretty cool. We landed in like East Cairo or something, East Bumble Cairo, and they refueled. So I was in I was in Egypt for 30 minutes. And then we left and we couldn't get on the helicopters because it was going to get dark. But lucky for us, because instead of going back to the carrier, we got to go to the island of Crete for the night. And that was amazing. It was cold though. It was a winter. So there was a few places open, but there wasn't a lot of people out, but it was still really cool. But we went to this one bar and there's like nobody there except for like this attractive lady at the bar, or a couple of them, and they would come up to you. And the scam was you had to buy them a drink for them to talk to you, but the drinks were like expensive. And I'm pretty sure it was just water they were giving these girls, they were just, so we were just like, all right, we're getting out of here. But you don't know when you walk in, you know what I mean? Like it's just a bar that's open. Let's go. So we got to this other bar and it was so cool. And the thing though, is back then they didn't have the euro. So they had lira in Italy, they had lira, and then they had drachma in Greece. And we didn't know the exchange rate with the drachma. We had no idea because we just were thrown in there blind. So we only knew lira, which was totally different. So I think each drachma was like like $2 or $3 American dollars or something crazy. So we just go to the ATM and we're like, I don't know, 200 drachma. So we just pull out this money. And then we're going buying drinks and like, oh, it's only 3 drachma. Like, meanwhile, it was like $9 for the drink, but 8 or 9, which doesn't sound a lot like now, but like in 1995, I mean, that was like going to Manhattan prices. Anyway, so we found out later our night was more expensive than we thought. Excuse me. We're doing it live. So that was fun. But so we stayed there for the night and we stayed in hotel rooms. That was pretty cool. And then in the morning, I remember we were loading up on those, instead of helicopters, we're getting on those CODs, they called them, carrier air delivery. or carrier. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, those airplanes that land on the carrier that were kind of weird. And we were near this hillside or mountain. There were sheep up there. It was so crazy. There's all these sheep. And this one guy's like, I'm horny. It was so funny. I was like, all right, dude. Cause like everybody would pretend that, cause it was a lot of Southerners there. So they would pretend other guys were like, had sex with goats, you know. Anyway, but it was funny. It was cool to see the goats. And then we flew to the carrier. And then I was at sea for Christmas. And then New Year's Eve, we went back to Italy, but I was on chow duty for December, or whatever it was, because it was Christmas. And then I was on chow duty for when we got back. And I was on night crew, which is 12 to 12 or 12 on, 12 off. I mean, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So, or maybe we got off at, I can't remember, but all I remember is we celebrated New Year's back in the States there, but we were 6 hours ahead. And then every hour that came in, we just were drinking. We were celebrating the New Year's. It was pretty funny. So that was that story. So we were back though, which is pretty cool. So at least I got to go out on certain days or whatever. So that was really cool. Italy was really fun. I can't say enough about it. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of all the crazy things we did. One time we rented a car and we drove up into the mountains because in Aviano, Italy, it's right at the foot of the mountains, the Alps, the Italian Alps. So we drove up and there was this lake that was just like crystal clear and it was like white rocks. It was nuts. It looked almost like white sand and the water was like so blue. And my friend's like, we got to go swimming in there. So we went in there, it was freezing. But it was, and this one I think was in the summer though, because when I went back a year later, so on the carrier, I went from like September to February and they were back a year. Then we went to Italy from February to August or September or whatever. And so I was there for the summer. So that was cool. We used to go to the beaches all the time. We'd rent cars and they have the autostrada, not the Autobahn, but you could still fly down it. It was so cool. And the hotel rooms there are tiny. It's like the craziest thing compared to America. So that was fun. The food there is just amazing. I mean, I can't say enough about the worst food you'd find there is like better than the best Italian here. It's so crazy. Anyway, it's making me hungry. So then I went to Italy, like I said, a year later for 6 months. That was really cool. Got back and anyway, so that whole time though, in the beginning when I was in school in Memphis, I was still into this Christianity thing, to pick that thread back up. And I was going to church and stuff. And I kind of got out of it though when I got back into like into the fleet, I guess you would say. So on the carrier and in Italy and stuff, I wasn't as into it. And then I just kind of let it go for a while. I got out of the Marines, started working, and I got back. That's what it was. I watched this video called, what was the name of that video? I'll think of it. Anyway, it was a crazy video, like in 2006 or 7. And it talked about 7-Eleven being a part-time job. It talked about astrotheology, that basically Christianity, where they're getting all their motifs and stuff. And it talked about something else, which I can't remember. What was the name of that movie? Somebody in the chat, I bet, knows. So it blew my whole worldview. Like, and I basically became more of like an agnostic because I found that this idea that they give you a church is just written in the stars. Like it's based on this, and a lot of different ancient religions had the same motifs and a lot of the same symbolism. And, you know, like born of a virgin born of a virgin mother. You know, like the sun dies for 3 days, stuff like that. So I saw it all as just like this bullshit system of control. And then that was like in the mid 2000s. So I got out of that. Zeitgeist was the name of that movie. Yeah, Nigel knows. I knew Nigel would know. It's funny because as I looked at the screen, it was popping into my head. Like I was like, Zeitgeist, we were like right there synced. Anyway, And I kind of had this atheistic view, and that was when I started DJing and stuff, and I just kind of was living like solipsistically, right? And then I started to, in 2012, I got into the Joe Rogan podcast experience. And he had a lot of good people on there back in the day, though. Like, it was a really cool resource, and I learned a lot. And so I started to meditate, and I started to kind of gravitate toward the new age. But for some reason, I never really got stuck in that trap. So I was meditating, and then I started doing stand-up comedy also in 2013, and I started to engage in the devil's lettuce again, which I hadn't done really since high school, because when I joined the Marines, I quit. And then maybe 3 times, maybe a handful of times in between 22 and like 35, I did it. So, and earlier I just looked at it like when I was getting out of the Marines, the reason I didn't start again is because I just kind of looked at it as something people did, and they just didn't, they were just like a stupid stoner, or like, not like, I guess that's a bad, they lacked the motivation, I guess. But this was just in some people, though. I didn't realize, that the healing qualities and all that stuff they were using as a form of escapism. How about that? That's what I was more seeing instead of as a medicine. So anyway, I started to dabble, and I started to use it as a medicine, really. And it kind of helped me get to this point. And then I allegedly took some psilocybin mushrooms. I took a nice like quarter, I think, or a third of an ounce. I don't remember, anyway. And I had a pretty crazy experience. And after that, I kept meditating, and then I did the microdosing thing maybe about a year later or so for a while. And I did that a couple times. I did it for like a month, and then I took some time off, and I did it again. And it really helped me with the meditation and being in the present moment. And I'm not recommending any of this for anybody. Everybody has their own path. I'm just sharing my story with you. If you feel called to do that, then do it. Don't take my advice, because my first trip was pretty crazy. I mean, it was overall really good, but certain parts of it showed me some scary stuff. So and then so I started to believe that there was some kind of God, right? In this idea of a creator, I got out of the whole materialist mindset, I guess I could say. I accepted that there was something going on, some kind of order to this universe, right? And then I got into symbolism through history, because I was always into history. And then I got into alternative history. And then I started to look into like a lot of the symbolism, because I saw like the Illuminati, the Knights Templar, or whatever, in the Masons, and the world controllers. But I was more interested in the history of it and how it happened, because I'm like, how did this happen? Like, how did we get here? We're supposed to be this free country. So I looked back in the history of all the stuff. I wasn't really concerned with the present. And I got into symbolism because I realized that symbolism was like this hidden language that's everywhere. And I've talked about this on podcasts before, but like Lay's potato chips, Pepsi, Nike, all these things. And then also at a bank, on the walls in a building, just buildings themselves. Like I would drive by downtown New Haven a lot, because I DJ'd. I have to go right by it, and they have a couple skyscrapers. It's nothing crazy. But one of them on top has what looks like 3 pavilions. And now when I got into symbolism, I'm like, oh my God, that's 3 pyramids on top of the skyscraper that looks like kind of like pavilions, but really what they are just like pyramids on top of like 4 stacks. I think I showed Spoons them. I don't think she's in here, but if she watches this, she'll know what I'm talking about. And there's the one in the middle is up top, and then there's 2 small ones. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell is that? So there's just all this symbolism everywhere in plain sight. So as I started to study that, I got into the tarot and hermetics. And I was also previously listening to the Bhagavad Gita a lot. That was more toward the beginning when I started to meditate. But I would still continuously kind of listen to that. And I saw how there was elements of that lined up with texts like the Kabbalion and a lot of this hermetic stuff. And a lot of the archetypes were the same, and especially with the tarot. Then I got into that. I got into understanding what archetypes were and all that stuff. So it really expanded my consciousness even further, because I was thinking about concepts like the all and the creator. And then you get into like paganism, I guess you could say, or Norse mythology. And connection sucks. Am I dying on you guys? Kinetic sucks. I don't know. Oh, Connecticut maybe is what he's saying. Yeah, I bet that's what he's saying. So anyway, I got into all these and I started to look into like Norse mythology. That's what I was saying. And all these different ideas. And I could see the common motifs and a lot of this stuff. And also just kind of helped shape my worldview and make it a little wider as far as what this realm could be, you know, what the creator could be like, you know, what this experience is, what we're actually doing, like what's the nature of consciousness, where does it come from, you know, all these questions. I started to be able to shape that. And now the way I see it is that it's kind of like sorry, I got distracted by something on the thing. Ooh, it's kind of like oh man, did I really just lose my thread there because I got distracted? It'll come back to me. But this anyway, I guess I'll just talk about the realm. Maybe I'll remember that. What was I talking about, guys? I'll talk about the realm and kind of the way, you know, the way I see it now is I feel like we're in some, so you get round Earth, right? The heliocentric model, the sun's in the middle, then it's Mercury, then Venus, then us, then Mars, right? So you look at these questions like, how can you see Mercury and Venus at night if they're closer to the sun than us, right? And then you see these videos, and then you can even get a P900. You know, you zoom in on the moon, and you're like, how can I zoom in so close to the moon if it's like 250,000 million miles away or whatever they say, right? So, and then, you know, you could zoom in across the lake, so everything's starting to look flat. So you look into the flat Earth thing, and it's very intriguing, right? And you're like, wow, look at this shit, like up in the airplane, all these proofs, right? The whole Antarctica thing, the flights, you know, why do the flights fly the way that they do, you know? So I was really interested in this stuff, but then I come across this information that like somebody's like, yeah, but at sunset, how can you see the sun reflect on the bottom of the clouds and in the morning? And maybe there's some easy explanation in a flat earth realm way to put it, but I'm not really sure. Maybe there's an easy one, but I'm not saying like I don't think it's flat, but I'm just saying that that's an anomaly, right? If the sun's always supposed to be above us, how's it shining under the clouds? Maybe it's a reflection, maybe there's some way it works, I don't know. But what I think is when I say realm earth, because I talk about and I refer to myself as a realm earther, what I mean is I think that we're in some kind of spiritual realm that we can't quite explain. Some people will say like a simulation, but I don't totally agree with that either, because I think simulation is just the best words for them to put on it, because that's how they understand it with the language that they have. Because I feel like our brains work like computers. And I was saying this kind of last night to Kaylee, right? So our brains function similar to computers, except I think our brains are just way more advanced than we know even, right? And this consciousness or whatever it is, maybe it's not even our brain, but this consciousness, let's say, it acts just like a computer. So if we then go ahead and make computers in the physical realm, that's what they're going to look like. The computer I have in front of me, maybe the one you have in front of you, whatever it is, that technology, that's how it's going to manifest, or that currently is how it's manifesting. And it's just like a reflection of our consciousness. So when people see how this realm works, and you know, you get into like stuff like Jason Bashir's from Archaics, and you see how there's like these different cycles in history, sometimes will repeat back, but the way it works, it's like puddles, or not puddles, like a rock in a puddle with the ripples, where you can find these pivot years, and like things will happen 20 years before it, and then a similar kind of events happen after it. And then also, if you start to look at the days of your life, like certain days have a lot in common with other ones, or all this crazy stuff, right? So it seems a lot of people see all this evidence for that, especially the history stuff, because this guy was like in jail for 26 years and just read all these old books from the 1800s. And he just took these meticulous notes, and then he wasn't even looking for it. He was just doing it. And then he just noticed this crazy pattern unfolding. And he's, you know, he's not like some savant genius. He's just like a normal guy that was like, what the hell? Oh, dude, yeah, Port Jeff to Bridgeport, totally. Let's go. Somebody in the chat says take a ferry to Port Jeff to Bridgeport. Don't go to Brit. See, this is the thing, right? I always had this as a joke. I'm like, Port Jeff is a really nice place. Bridgeport in Connecticut's kind of a big city, you know. It's like you have to lock your bike twice there. That's all I'll say. Like, at least. So the people coming from Port Jeff, which is this nice Long Island like boat town, you know, it's all about bars and like it's a small town place. Then to go to Bridgeport is not such a great trade. Hey, what's up, Corey? How's it going, dude? Thanks for coming in, man. I'm just telling my life story. So if you're interested, you can go back and check it out. But stick with us for now because I'm talking about what I believe this realm is. All right, so let's get back to that. So spiritual realm, right? Our brains are like computers. So therefore, this is what I was saying last night, right? Everybody wants to look at the collective consciousness, the sheep, those people, and they want to just say, that's them over there, and I'm over here as an observer. But the way the collective conscious works, from what I understand, we are still connected to this consciousness that they're connected to. We all have the same connection. And so when we try to observe them, we can't. It's like trying to observe an experiment from within the experiment, right? It doesn't make sense. So the reason why am I bringing this up? Oh yeah, so our brain on this, by the same token, is gonna see and manifest things, and we're gonna do things according to what the way our consciousness works, which in the physical dimension, the reflection of it would be a computer. So it's going to work similar to that, and that's going to be our language for it. This is just my conjecture and what I've gathered from all the stuff I looked into, right? So I think things like Mandelu could be explained in this way because it's something that happens in the collective consciousness, which acts like a computer, because the computer is the physical reflection of it that we make. It acts that way. So sometimes things just happen that we can't explain, but we try to explain them. We try to quantify them because we have to know. There can't be any unknown, because if there's any unknown, then we're not in control, right? I'm being sarcastic here. But most people need control, because without the control, they get afraid what's going to happen. You know, they want to feel like they have that sense of control. So they want to know these things. And then that's how a lot of dogma comes and stays in place too. So I can't quite explain. This is just me in a dark room feeling an elephant, right? But that's how I think this all works. And that's why I also think it seems like a simulation, and it seems like all these things that happen. But who are doing all these things in history? That's my question. People that are connected to this collective consciousness. So therefore, wouldn't their behavior manifest that way? So that's one of my what I would say about simulation theory, right? It's possible that we're not in some kind of computer simulation or whatever it is, because it's just the way our consciousness works. It manifests this thing, right? These whatever happens, that's how it manifests. Now, I'm not saying there's not some cataclysm that also can come along, because I don't understand how this realm works, right? This is what I'm saying. I'm just asking questions, not making claims. I don't know how it works. There could be some kind of reset function in it or whatever, but that doesn't mean that it's a simulation or we're in a computer or we're in something else, right? We could be in a spiritual experience, and that's something we wouldn't be able to grasp as mere people, men and women, I'll say, for Sharon, because I don't want to say humans. People, right? Men and women, we could be in this spiritual experience, but we're tricking ourselves into thinking it's physical. Now that wipes out globe and flat earth right there, because in globe earth, obviously it's materialistic, but flat earth, a lot of it, people who don't understand the realm part, what I'm talking about, and this isn't a critique, I'm just telling you what I see, right? Because I love the flat earth people. Like, they are definitely onto it and they get it, because they're not afraid to look at truth. And that's why I'm saying this stuff, because I think there's another level. Because I think when you're just attached to that material flat plane, you're still in materialism, and materialism could be something that can hinder people from raising their consciousness. I'll just say it that way, right? But it's fine, to each their own, right? I'm just glad people are not able to acknowledge that. We're probably not in a spinning. Anyway, I don't want to get something written under this. You guys get it. But the spiritual realm, so it's just a mystery. We have to accept it because we are men and women. And at our stage of consciousness, we can't grasp what it is. And it's just like Gandalf said to Frodo when Frodo's like, I wish I haven't lived to see such times. And Gandalf says, so do all who live to see such times. Say they wish, you know, that basically they wish they didn't live in these times too. He's like, but it's not up to them when they're here, what time they're here. What is up to them is how they or what they do with their time here. Something like that. I totally butchered that. But it's the same kind of thing, right? So it's not like, woe is me, why can't I know? Or, you know, I want to get on to the next one. It's like, no, you're here right now. So be here now, man. That's what I'm saying. I'm bringing this all full circle. But so yeah, I just accept the mystery. That's what I say. Like, listen, do whatever you want, right? This is just what I've learned, and this is my point of view, what I see, what I'm sharing in the world. And then to get back to what I guess you could say, like, what do I believe? Like my beliefs and my like if I had to check my religious status or whatever, I would say that, like before, I said the most important thing I really think is that as long as somebody's living by the golden rule, you know, by natural law, God's law, whatever it is, as long as they are not doing unto others what they don't want done to them, then I'm fine with it. That's how I accept people, right? But as far as what I believe, I think that if this is an infinite, internal, eternal thing, like they say, like this creation has no beginning and has no end, I think that we're energy and we're tricking ourselves into thinking we're physical. Because even if you go by the mainstream stuff and you take a microscope and you go all the way down, you just see energy, right? You see dancing balls. What's up, Cody? Yo, what's going on, dude? Thanks for coming in, man. We got to go hiking sometime soon. It's starting to cool off out there. It's getting perfect. So I think Cody came in at the right time. We were like, what the hell? So technically, if you zoom in on us, we're energy, right? So I feel like since there can't be a lie in this universe, everything has to be true or in this realm. When you zoom so it feels like it's physical, but it's a trick because when you zoom in, the truth is there. We're energy. And I feel like if we are energy, we're just at a different stage in that. So if you think of the energy that just goes throughout your house, it'll go through different cycles, right? So we're energy at ooh, excuse me, I must be allergic to this gravy. We're energy in this experience, and the way our consciousness is showing us, it's showing us this physical experience right now where we're in this realm where we have free will. We get to make choices. We get to go put a needle in our arm and steal from people and be a piece of shit, or we get to go out and become a rich person, or, you know, we get to be a poor person, or we get to be a skydiver or a secret agent, you know, or a cop or a criminal or a drug dealer. We get to choose this adventure. And as these choices happen, I see what happens is it's kind of like a ping pong effect, because we'll do something that's considered negative or evil, and then we do it until we just don't want to do it anymore. And then we ping the other way, and we're slowly kind of rising up. Now, maybe not everyone's rising. That's right. You did move to New Hampshire. Yeah, dude. Maybe I'll just have to come up if that's cool. Let me know. I could go camping or something. I'll just sleep in my truck, dude. I already sleep on the floor, everybody. It's another thing about me. I sold my bed years ago, and I sleep on the floor on like 2 camping mats and with a sleeping bag. And it's maybe it's because I'm a giant. You know, I'm like 23.33 Rogan, 6'5". So maybe just for me, because everything is so low in this world. Anyway, I'm going off on my Jesus, my victimization, victimhood. So anyway, it's really good for my back and stuff. And it feels like a bed to me now. It's crazy. Like I've always had comfortable beds, but it really. Oh, good night, Adrian. Did I miss it? How long ago was that? She looks like she said, I'm going down, Captain. Can't keep the eyes open. Good night. I think that's a Star Trek reference. Anyway, so sleeping on the floor, and it just feels really comfortable to me. Like I just went to Atlantic City for a night to go to some DJ convention thing, and I slept in a hotel room bed, and that was nice to do that too. But I just dig the floor, man. I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm just a goddamn savage. All right, what do you want from me? Okay. Anyway, Where was I? I guess we could take a quick pause for the cause and say this show is brought to you by morelawsmoreproblems.com. That's my website since 2013. I didn't even talk about that. I've talked about that a lot, though. This is more about my worldview. Go to morelawsmoreproblems.com. You need more kombucha. Oh, fact, my back. Get better, Ira 2.0 bag. Yeah, when are you sending that to me, dude? Let me know. Text me. I'll send you the money. I'll make it rain. Good night, 7-Eleven, Lucas. Thanks for hanging out, dude. Which is Cody Bassett. Appreciate it. I knew that. Anyway, I was wrapped up in my gravy about what this realm might be. So energy, we're just cycling around and we're in this realm, right? We get free choice and free will. And I feel like we're here to learn lessons, like Fortune Saint Germain said on Crow. He's like, we're here to learn lessons. We can learn them through joy, or we can learn them through suffering. So I think there's a lot of truth in that. I feel like I'm here now at this point to learn through joy. I'm trying to be, but still we suffer, right? There's things that happen. You stub your toe once in a while, you know. It's a physical realm. What are you going to do? You're a giant. I mean, of course you're going to hit your head. What was I supposed to do? The pipe was right there. So I'm just, it's a callback to my laundry earlier, although I didn't hit my head today, but there's this pipe that goes through because that part of the basement's unfinished. There's like a workbench and stuff in there in the laundry and the oil tank and the freezer. And so between the washer and the dryer, there's this pipe that goes down low, and every once in a while, I'm like, anyway, the struggles are real. So I feel like you could just basically go either way you want, right? If you want to be a total shitbag, fine. Just don't do it around me. Don't get in front of me. Don't infringe on my rights, I guess you could say, which a right is just any action that you perform that's not against the golden rule or God's law or natural law. It's just a right. Like you have the right to have a bazooka, you know. So as long as you're not trying to do that too bad, you know, then we're fine. And I always try to approach things learning through joy, like from the full kind of energy of the major arcana. Oh crap, I didn't know you wanted coffee. We'll mail tomorrow. Anchor Bears. Oh no, I want the new stuff, dude. I mean, you remember that conversation we had. I won't blow it up, but I'm a sample tester, guys. Listen, I'm one of these people who is I'm an innovator, right? I'm an early adapter. So, and I'm a podcaster. So if Paraplegic Bear wants to send me a sample of his brand new stuff that he's waiting, it's fine. Okay. I'll let you guys know to get it. And we'll even do a coupon code. Listen, guys, you could save 95% on his coffee. I got the coupon code right here. It's called, no, I'm just kidding. It's really Lucas Ira's back straightening roast. Yeah, dude, it's so good. He sent me a bunch of stuff. I'll give Paraplegic a little commercial here. He sent me a bunch of stuff. It's really good. What was it? There was the Helen Keller roast or whatever. Ira's back straightening roast. I can't remember the other ones he sent. I don't remember. They were so hilarious though, but they were good. And I grind them up every morning, get the whole beans. So yeah, dude, check him out. I think you have to call him or something. He's supposed to be working on a website. You got a website going yet? I'll shout it out, dude. But if not, hit me up. I'll put you in contact with him. Morelawsmoreproblems.com. Just hit the contact button or leave a comment under here. And we'll get you some of that tasty Paraplegic coffee. My promo code adds 33% more. Yeah, of course it would. He's Jewaplegic Bear, everybody. Can I say that? I meant Joo. I was saying, you know, the Joes. You know, you get it. The J's. He's a J. Undercover. You never would have thought about it. I saw the size of your nose. There's this phone number. It's 410-708-7622. Ladies and gentlemen, call 410-708-7622 for your Paraplegic coffee now. All right, the commercial's over. But you can't order from it. Yes, but you can't. Oh, he has a website, but you can't order from it. All right, cool. That's cool. That's fine. Just call. Listen, it's the old days. Text him. All right. It's fine. He's a good dude and he's got good coffee. It's better than buying that moldy crap from the store, let me tell you. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I believe basically, right? So the realm where energy, we're cycling around. We're at this point right now where we are experiencing ourselves in a physical realm, and that realm appears flat most of the times, but it simulates a globe for some reason. Like we're supposed to meant to believe, like they didn't just come out with the globe lie out of their ass. I don't think they could have, but I think that because of what's in the sky and then the way this holography works, as Jason from Archaics would say, it makes us think we're in a globe. It's really crazy. So that's why I think it's just some kind of physical experience that spiritual experience I can't explain. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not lying. Anyway, so that I guess brings us up to speed where we are. So when you listen to us on the Over Sharon show, you know my point of view. Sharon's point of view is pretty similar to mine. And you know, especially through doing this show, but we talk a lot you know, through Telegram and stuff, and we talk on the phone and we talk about all these ideas, and we're pretty much at the same level with this understanding. It's really crazy. Like, so that's where we're coming from. So when you hear us talk about these ideas, you know, you don't have to be like, how dare you? We're just coming from a different angle. That's all, you know. We're just using our giant brains because we're so smart at the Over Sharon show. And you know, this is the thing too about Sharon. She never she grew up under a rock, so she didn't have to take in all this pop culture. She knows a couple things, but like the amount of space that's taken up in my brain with like, you know, useless movie quotes, which is still funny, right? It still could be used for humor, which is cool. So I'm glad that I have it, but not having that, because she's not a comedian, especially, it's so great for her because she has all these other knowledge of stuff she was studying that kind of lines up with this stuff, like studying the Bible and stuff. So yeah, it's amazing. So we have great point of views. And what's that say? Brandon Bear, piezoelectric stuff. Maybe, I'm not sure. It could be Cody. But this is just kind of I'm like an aggregator of all these different things. And then I take all this information in and then I just kind of see what it makes sense to me. And a lot of people that I listen to don't even agree with each other, but I'm able to distill down what I see as their truth and then put it together with other people's truths and then kind of run it through my filter. And then this is what I reflect back, basically, is how it's going. So, but again, I could be wrong, right? I mean, but the other reason I come at this point of view is because of materialism. So I just look at what materialism does and what that mindset does to people. And I know a globe is materialist, and a flat plane, anything that is not material would be a spirit. So I think that anything that people are trying to explain this is, if it's not spirit, then they're a materialist in my book. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging you for that. I'm just saying that's where I feel the belief system's at. And again, it's fine as long as you're living by the golden rule. You know, we're all hanging out, we're all cool. I don't think I'm better than anyone. I feel like it's just a different way to explain the same thing. We're all three guys in a dark room feeling an elephant, and one's like, I got the trunk, you know. It's all the truth. But that's kind of how I see it. So that's what I'm trying to explain by a realm. That's why when like Owen says realm earther, I get so excited. Owen Big Bear, Owen Benjamin, because I don't know if he exactly thinks what I think, but he's in that same ballpark. You know, he's like, it's a fucking realm, dude. Like, yeah. And now I'm just kind of putting behind a little bit of context to what that could be. That's it. So take it or leave it, everybody. But we have 8 people watching and 10 likes. Yeah, dude, we're on fire. Sharon loves my coffee too, so I love you guys. The minute you stop loving my coffee, you're dead to me. Well, fuck you then. I just threw out all your coffee yesterday, bitch. No, I'm just kidding. No, his coffee's great. I just like to give him a hard time. We're old school, you know, we're old. We like to rag on each other. It's what you used to do back in the day. Back in my day. You know, you go down to the bar, you'd see Sal down there, buy him some shots. You know how it is, you being 13. You know, being 13, you got to do shots. And then Sonny's down there doing dice in the basement. Anyway, that's my fun impersonation. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I guess I'll get out of here because it's been long enough. It says it says on here I started streaming less than a minute ago. So I hope I've been streaming longer than a minute, because if not, this is some really good weed, man. Anyway, morelawsmoreproblems.com to support us. And the best way to support us is to just be here in the live chat, comment on this video. You can buy my book too. Go to shadowworked.com. And I talk a lot about my life experience in there as well. Some stuff I didn't talk about tonight. I talk about my severe intimacy issues, which I didn't talk about at all tonight, which basically had me displaying the behavior of a sex addict, as you could say, a sex addict, something like that. Sorry, my throat's pretty dry right now. Let me take another sip. All this talking, man, it gets you. I'm out of juice, man. I'm out of juice. So it's a perfect time to end this. But yeah, shadowworked.com, and you could donate to me several ways, and I will send you the PDF and EPUB of the book, and you can let me know what you think. I talk about, like I said, my time with severe intimacy issues. I talk about boot camp. I talk about 9/11 and how that affected my consciousness. I talk about 2020 and how that affected my consciousness. So yeah, it was really interesting, and I made some observations about the world, I guess you could say. And you could find that all at shadowworked.com. All right, I think I'm gonna end it because I know how now, but I don't want it to cut off. So I'm just gonna say goodnight, everybody, and then sit here and then end.